welcome to Netflix and Kill. Oh my goodness, Travis. We got another animated edition here. It's been a while since we had an animated edition for Netflix and Kill, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, we are very excited to be covering a video game related title this time. And of course, if it has anything to do with video games, we gotta get our guy, our man, our gentleman with class and a glass, I believe.
There you go. Yeah, it is.
It's Chris Herman, everybody. Say hi, Chris.
Hello, everyone. Hello. We're going to review something that's very violent and bloody. Much different than Road to El Dorado, which I'm like, that was your last animated one? It's like, wow, what a difference.
I think we're calling it anime because we've done a few anime ones.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I suppose this is like a Netflix anime, sort of.
I mean, Devilman Crybaby was a Netflix and Kill, right?
Mm-hmm. Did we do it for Netflix and Kill or for the regular? No, wait, it wasn't Netflix and Kill.
I thought so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which this is actually close, but not nearly that far.
So yes, we'll be talking about the Netflix original series Castlevania.
There is a darkness upon the land. A savior is needed.
Who are you?
The man who'll kill Dracula.
Spoilers straight up, I have not actually played the video game like Bud at all.
Me neither.
So we were
horrible plebs.
We were very lost watching this. We felt like we might have been losing some backstory.
I thought the game was the movie was fairly self-contained.
Yeah, I was confused.
Okay.
Well, luckily enough, there's not any audio of me being so confused while watching the first episode of this.
Who's this vampire guy? I've never heard of him. I'm all about Edward, and the rest
The
of the
sparkly kind.
The sparkly
he was kind of
kind.
sparkly in this one.
Yeah.
Travis, I forgot we actually recorded our live reaction for the first episode. And that's actually available for our patrons. Damn it! Oh, there is audio of me being so unbelievably confused.
Just proof.
If you'd like to go over to our Patreon page and pledge at any level, you can actually get access to that and some of our other previous commentaries for Netflix and Kill. With that quick plug out of the way, I don't know. I had a distinct feeling watching this series, and I think it's not going to be the same as Chris's because mine was a distinct and utter meh.
Man,
I was a little bit bored, I gotta say, and which was disappointing because I actually kind of dug the first episode because the first episode's all about Dracula. So these are 4 episodes apiece. And 22 minutes. You know what? I've skipped over my favorite part, which is that our guest explains the plot of the content that we're reviewing. So, Chris, would you like to give a brief rundown of exactly what Castlevania the series is about?
Oh my god! Well, Castlevania is like kind of it's one of the progenitors of like the Metrovania genre of video games. Where that's where the Metroidvania comes from, like Metroid and Castlevania. Mm-hmm. It's like just one of those fantastic RPG platformers, and it's been around since I want to say the early 80s. Produced by Konami, has had a number of developers over the years.
In fact, actually, the game this one's based on came out in '89.
Yeah, it's based on Castlevania. I want to say 3, Dracula's Curse, which I think is a prequel. Which makes sense because it tells the origins of kind of like Dracula's, tragedy and everything, and his connection with the Belmont family. The story takes place where we follow this woman who is living in Wakalia, a fictional country during I want to say the 14th century, 14th or 15th century, one of those centuries,
1400s. So
yeah, there you go. And she wants to become a doctor, and like the one place in her country, or at least in the world, that has the most scientific instruments available and the most knowledge is, of course, Dracula's castle. And so she travels there, and she confronts Dracula, and this is his first interaction with humanity in quite some time, in hundreds of years. He was originally, Vlad the Impaler. He changes when he obviously became a vampire. Changed his name to Vlad Dracula Tepes. And his wife.
As you do. I mean, if
as you do.
You don't want that.
Well, you become someone new. It's like, well, that's my old life. I mean, that's not who I am anymore. I need to rebrand myself. It's all about rebranding nowadays. It's like, I made a change. I got to market myself now. Totally new name. And
I want people to recognize me for my vampirism, not that whole impaling thing I was doing.
Exactly.
That was a phase.
But we see some of the impaling, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the woman who is a Lisa Tepes, or eventually will become a Tepes, is Lisa. She goes to this and to Dracula's castle, confronts him. And this is like his first interaction with humanity in quite some time. He's intrigued by her, impressed that she's debating with him, and she basically shows that humanity is worth fighting for, worth educating, worth saving. And we flash forward a few years later. Learning what happens, that humanity can also be very cruel and violent. And I mean, this is the first episode, this isn't a spoiler. Dracula's wife is burned at the stake because she's speaking that science, and the church don't like that science. No. It's all about the leeches, guys. You can't, what? It's all this herbs and medicine, just helping people? No, it's all about the leeches and praying to God. That's how you're going to get better.
They could have just been the fact that, she fucked Dracula as the reason they wanted to kill her.
It's funny enough,
that seems like...
Yeah, but they don't bring that up.
No, they don't. It's not important to them until after we're found.
When Dracula shows the fuck up, it's like, Dracula, he's a myth.
What's
and
cool?
They're saying that to a live giant firehead. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. So witches, those are on the table, but vampires and Dracula, whoa, that's just a little too far-fetched
crazy
for
talk.
us.
He's viewed as a myth. He's been gone for centuries. That people just like, what? Yeah, he's a legend. And where they think this is actually just the witch's magic. This is Satan, not Dracula. Not a pure evil force. Not, it's actually just a vengeful husband. And yeah, she's burned at the stake. Dracula kind of abandons his humanity, because for the first time in a long time, he actually travels the earth as a human. He lives as a human being.
As a hobo.
Yeah. Well, yeah, whatever. But, he's walking the earth. He's doing the whole, Superman thing. Just like, whatever. I'm just going to stop flying around and use all my magic and science and my cool, Studio Ghibli-esque castle, except more terrifying to get around. I'm going to walk around
Superman,
as a man.
that's a better reference. I was going to say Kane from Kung Fu, the whole walk the earth thing. But that's just my liking that scene from Pulp Fiction.
No, I get it, yeah.
So I like Lisa in the beginning here because I feel like she knows that okay, there's only one episode to get through my backstory, so we gotta get through this at a lightning pace here, guys. So she walks through all these skeletons impaled here, and doesn't seem to be able to read the room of I'm with a vampire. Hey, I want to learn all about this cool stuff you got here. Look at all this steampunk medical stuff, and I love even Dracula's kind of You do know that I'm a vampire, right? Is that registering with you, or are you not? Do you not know? Are you stupid? What's going on here?
She's an independent woman. She thinks for herself, as she says.
And she should have thought, I should get the fuck out of here.
Nah, she was like, this guy, he's fine. He's been the fact that he hasn't interacted with humanity in so long that I don't think that she was afraid of him. At that point, he's because if he was truly a monster at that point, he would have still been trying, to destroy humanity or feed on humanity. He's been gone for hundreds of years. He's a hermit, basically, just living by himself. And even though he even says, I'm not that person anymore when you see those skeletons out there. If anything, it's like scarecrows at this point. He's just isolated himself because he's just I just want to be left alone. Because he has nothing to live for until he meets her. Because she challenges his views on humanity, and that's why he begins to like her and then fall in love with her. Would I have liked to have seen more of that relationship play out? Certainly I would have. But I mean, it's complicated with this series. This has a weird backstory. This originally started out as a film. It was supposed to come out in the mid 2000s. It went through so many creative teams over the years, different writers, until it eventually just got a short animated miniseries. I was just happy that we got just these 4 episodes, because I think it encapsulates what Castlevania is best at, which is showing some really cool, interesting choreography, a really beautiful world, and a surprisingly just atmospheric story. as we continue on with kind of the general plot, Dracula's wife's burned at the stake. Church is responsible. Dracula's like, well, I'm going to destroy Wakalia. Fuck you guys. I'm going to give you, but here's the thing. He's like, I'm going to give you 1 goddamn year to take care of your shit, to get out of here. But then I'm going to just lay scourge to the land, you know? And, Church is like, whatever. People are like, you're bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's just the witch's magic. Follows through.
And then, not only does he follow through, but a year later, they're not only not repenting, they're actively celebrating the death. I'm like, wow, you guys are literally asking for it.
Like, motherfucker, I would try to be cool, and you guys are just fucking with me. You know what? Fuck it. Get the gargoyles. Get those gargoyles out there, or bat creatures, whatever the hell they are.
Demons.
That somehow no hyper beam. But.
Well, even though, I do like how Dracula is humanized so much in the show. Like, even in the beginning, in that first episode, when he comes upon his house, when Lisa's been taken, and he meets that old woman, and he's like, last kindness that I'm going to do is I'm going to let you go because you were kind to my wife. But he has that whole kind of like Arthur the Aardvark moment where his fists just clenched and shit, and because he's so mad. And
he starts crying blood.
It's like, I would have picked a different reference than Arthur the Aardvark.
That's what I'm just thinking of. I'm just, every time I see, because he has that clenched fist or whatever, I'm just like, it's like Arthur the Aardvark. I remember this. Like the meme, guys.
It's just the meme.
Get with the times. It's a popular Facebook meme. But I just love that moment. And then he's just like, well, I'm gonna go crazy now and just lay waste to humanity. And then that's where the story continues on, and then you've introduced to one of the, the most prominent Belmonts, Trevor Belmont, who was a monster hunter. And he's part of one of the kind of royal families of Wakalia, who was excommunicated from the church because of the fact that they fought against monsters and because they just grew in popularity, more popular than the church. So that's, by the way, if you happen to be very religious or certainly Catholic, you might be a little peeved by this show. It does not paint a very nice picture of organized religion in the Catholic Church.
I loved it.
Yeah, so did I. I loved it too. I'm just before warning people who are just going like, it's a vampire show. It's like, yeah, it is, but it's, it has
also shitting on the church, which is awesome.
Yeah, it has a social commentary.
We have that dick,
the bishop.
Bishop, yeah, didn't wake up until episode 2 or 3. Like, his dialogue in the first episode is kind of just like, I'm like, is he falling asleep in the recording booth? Like, he is just so tired.
He's just a prick. He's just like, I'm so bored by this burning.
Well, hopefully we can find this, and I don't want to die and take my work into the next life. I have so much to do here.
Yeah.
Oh, bother.
Oh, bother. It's Winnie the Pooh. That's who it is. Same voice actor. But that's what I loved about it. That's what made me hate him so much, because he's so like, whatever. He's kind of so passive and so demeaning and talks down to everybody. He's like, fuck this guy.
Also, like how Lisa was like, forgive them if you can hear me. They know not what they do.
Yeah.
Also, I like that too, is that like, it turns out he couldn't hear her. So it was just kind of like, it was just her guessing like, I'm not sure about your whole power level exactly, so I guess I'll just in case.
I read it that he was not using his abilities for quite some time when we see him again, when he's walking the earth as a man. So he's just like, that's why he didn't hear his wife scream, her pain or anything. So,
although I do feel like when he walked up on the house and he sees it burning to the ground, he didn't really react until like the neighbor said, "Oh, they already took her." Like, oh, now I'm concerned. Like, if your house is on fire, I feel like you should be concerned already. But
he has that quiet rage. He has to build until he actually get that moment later on, because they were saving it for that time when he comes up as that flaming skull. To really to push forward the sense that he's really pissed off at this moment.
Also, this Dracula is like super powerful.
Oh yeah, no, he's like a demigod.
Like biblical raining down meteors type of powerful.
Yep.
Well, he really likes doing the whole Mufasa in the sky imagery thing with his giant face, but with beautiful. Fire and bats or whatever. Like that's his go-to communication move, which is pretty cool. I like the demons that he summons. Like by the time they come down, later they start wiping out people, and it's actually kind of like funny how badly they start to wipe out people, including women and children.
Oh yeah, they eat babies. They rip like kids' guts out of their stomachs and stuff. Women like have their eyeballs gouged out. It's probably one of the most violent cartoons I've ever seen. One of the most violent anime I've ever seen. Oh, it's wonderfully horrific.
Not quite Devilman Crybaby, but not too step far away. And so that was the thing with it too, is that I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Because previously the animation, you could see where they were really trying to save on the budget, where there was a lot of scenes with crowds of people that just weren't moving.
Sure.
Like just really slow, kind of stiff stuff. The animation really only livens up during fight scenes, and even then, only certain fight scenes get the real royal treatment. And other than that, like there's the whole, when we first meet Trevor, we meet this in this giant bar fight that is set to the most unenthusiastic music I've ever heard.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Like, and it wasn't even like it was appropriate time period music, but it wasn't even like anyone was playing it in the scene. So I don't know why it starts up right then. And like that fight is like pretty stiff. Like it goes on for way too long. It's like it's just
dick punching.
It's just killing time and just showing that Trevor is not that good at fighting when he's drunk. And kind of like it's introduction to Trevor's character of like, well, he's a kind of a washed up old, like he might have been good at fighting at one point, but he's out of practice. It's been a while since he's been at this. And it wasn't until we got the actual versus the Cyclops scene where I was like, whoa, holy shit. Oh, okay, yeah, here we go. In which he starts to like, kick the sword at it and like do all the cool tricks with the whip.
Jumping off the frozen person's head.
Yeah, it was actually, that was a pretty cool part of it. I actually, that's when I like this series the most is during the fight sequences. And Trevor Belmont, he's played by Richard Armitage.
Thorin.
But yeah, you'll recognize him from Thorin from the Hobbit movies. Mm-hmm. He's sleepwalking for this Trevor role. He puts some emotion to it, especially near the end episode where I'm like, okay, finally he's starting to put a little bit of effort into here. But I'm not sure if he just wasn't used to the whole voice acting thing or what. I'm not sure if he has any other voice acting credits or not, but like Trevor did not come off as a very interesting or dynamic character to me up until the end point. But Chris, I feel like you disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, motherfucker.
Yeah, I do. No, I get what you're saying, but the thing is, with Trevor at this point in his life, he is so disaffected by everything. His family has been blacklisted by the entire country. They're despised. He was once viewed as a hero, a monster hunter, one of the best ones of the Belmont family, if not the best. And now he just spends his days in a bar making sarcastic comments. So yeah, I can see why he'd be a little bit bitter and why he'd be just kind of apathetic to the world and to the church's problems, everyday people's problems. But he has those moments where he's still a good person and where he's like, God damn it, I don't want to have to do this because it'll bring attention to myself. And I know it's going to come back on me. It's always going to be bad, but I still have to do it. And so I liked his attitude. He's the rogue. He's the quintessential rogue. But I think Armitage did a great job of selling it that this guy doesn't know what to do with himself at this point, but he knows that he has to still do the right thing, even though he doesn't want to anymore. He's just so bitter over it. And then we finally do get to him at the end of this season where he's like, okay, shit, I know what I need to do. I have to save these people. There are good people here. And I like that. He comes to that realization. He's like, fuck, okay, let's do this. And, I just thought Armitage did a great job. And I was shocked at the humor of this show. Because, again, Castlevania, it's 8-bit, like 16-bit, 32-bit games. Mm. And, Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get humor across, in that. It's just text, basically. But thankfully, this series has an excellent writer in Warren Ellis, who's the main writer for this show. Of course,
Really?
Warren Ellis, who's, he's done comic books, he's done books. In terms of comics, probably best known for doing stuff like, Iron Man Extremis, Transmetropolitan, which is kind of like a critique on, politics and, it's this kind of futuristic world. It's, it's focusing on journalism and politics and a character who is just kind of pointing his finger at the world and saying, like, pointing at all the hypocrisy. And I see that here. Plus, there's also a scene about animal fucking, and there's almost in every Warren Ellis work, there's always something about animal fucking. Fornication of animals. I don't know why you had to put that in there and everything, Ellis, but thank you for doing that, because I know it's like, this must be a Warren Ellis work.
That's how you know.
The goat fucking scene.
Yeah, the goat fucking scene. Yeah,
That's like one of the first things that Trevor shows up in is just hearing people talk about goat fucking.
And I loved it. I was just like, this is great. This is a world that is very unforgiving and just crass. And it was so different from a lot of anime and cartoons and specifically video game adaptations that I'm used to seeing. It's not obnoxious. It's just reveling in just how disgusting and wonderfully weird this world is.
Yeah, I mean, the point where I really wake up again with the show is I liked the first episode and the last episode, and the last episode features a lot of like the castle and like the different levels and traps and
the video
like,
game stuff.
And it's like, oh, okay, this feels kind of cool. Yeah. Like, and the I guess my real problem is the middle two episodes is a lot with the city and the speakers and Trevor and what's her name, magic user girl,
Sipha.
Sipha. And I liked her because she seemed invested, and I guess Trevor just came off to me as a little bit bored rather than what you're saying is unaffected or
disaffected. He's
disaffected. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I like how sometimes I like how evil the priests are, and sometimes I feel like it's over the top. Like
I love it. Yeah.
On one level, like the bishop is like, does he understand what's going on? Like, does he get it? Like, does he really think? Because his whole plan is to murder the speakers in order to that'll be enough of a sacrifice in order to make the demons not attack us. And I'm like, you were there when Dracula told you that you guys were screwed. Like, there's no reason why you would think this would work. But like, I was wondering, like, is this just an alternative? Is there an ulterior motive to where he just doesn't like the speakers or whatever? But it was hard to tell whether or not he believed his own bullshit or not.
But that's kind of the point, is that even with reason and, something that is so obviously, the case in front of his face and all of these priests' face, they still deny it. It's to show how hypocritical they are, how corrupt they are, and how without any semblance of reason they are. They're so caught up in their own selfish bullshit that the faith that they profess to preach, that's not what it is anymore. It's just a cover for how selfish they actually are. They represent the worst in humanity, and they're using religion to get away with doing all the horrible stuff. I mean, that's what it is. It's a critique on that. People who abuse religion for selfish means. That's what it is. And that's what I think the show is showing with these characters who are so, is it kind of comical? Sure, I think it is, but I think that's the point too. It's critiquing them. It's critiquing the church. And I think it works for the show because this is an exaggerated world. So, and it worked for me because I thought it was funny.
My only real major problem with the church is the fact that most of their lower level henchmen are just literally thugs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, you get the one blinded guy who's just he pulls out a bandit dagger. I'm like, okay, so are the church just hiring thugs off the street to be Templars now, or what?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were. I mean, the Templars were supposedly warriors of the faith of the church, but, they kind of formed their own organization, and they just kind of did it for, personal, selfish reasons in terms of, wealth and power. Mm-hmm. So, I can kind of see it that way, where the church would attract these people, I'm I'm professing the faith. I'm, showing the good works to the people. Where in reality, they're just like, I just want to get, my own stuff and not have to share with anybody. And then I get to abuse all these weird peasant people. Oh, sure, I'll do that. Fuck them. Who cares? I'm doing it for the church.
I do like the whole fight scene that happens with them too, where Trevor does rally the troops in order to defend one of the last standing cities. I also liked that you got to figure some of these cities must not have known what was happening, because it only ever happened the Dracula first wiped out the big main city and then gave everybody a year, and it was and some of these all the other cities might be like, hey, why is this happening? Oh, because that one city killed my wife. Dude, I wasn't even there.
Actually, I think, don't they say something similar to that in the first episode, where the guys in the bar are like, fuck them, we hate those guys, it's all their fault.
Mm-hmm. Well, there seems to be a lot of angst for the upper class that the lower class were in the bar seem to have. Especially when they're and those fucking Belmonts, fuck those guys especially.
I think almost any time you get a church in major power, you're going to find people hating the upper class.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also like when we finally meet Alucard.
My boy.
Yeah, he's interesting name. I wonder if it means anything.
Technically we meet him in the first episode, don't we? Or at least we see his silhouette.
I can't think of any other vampire media where the name Alucard was used, so we'll just we'll just chalk that up to a mystery.
I think Castlevania might be one of the first ones to do it, though. So.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do love how it's they mistake him for Dracula. Of well, you're a fucking vampire, so you gotta be Dracula. No one knows what he looks like. Mm-hmm. And he's no, for realsies, I'm not related to Dracula at all. What would make you think that? He's got the fangs out and everything, just oh, well, come on, you're just assuming now. That's profiling. And yeah, he's pretty cool. He's got a great design. He reminds me of Sephiroth a little bit, with the long sword and the long hair and the teleport abilities. That's pretty cool, and it leads up to probably the best fight of the series, which is him and Trevor going at it for a little bit. And yeah, I think my main problem here is that we just have the first half of a movie or a story, and that's about it.
You're right.
And I mean, even I do want to judge it even as it's well, it's the first part of a story. There is going to be a second season, but even just as a season length show, it just straight hard cuts off.
No, it is basically half a season.
It feels like what Voltron the Legendary Defender has turned into, where they just start cutting seasons in half, and it's just well, I guess this point will end it here because it's just arbitrary or whatever. Also, I feel like the fight scenes here get up to Voltron level too, which sounds like a backhanded compliment, but is not. It's some of those hand-to-hand fights in Voltron are pretty cool too. So actually, I would consider that a compliment. Yeah, it feels because there is 22 minutes, 4 episodes.
Yeah,
it feels like there's a missing half hour to this first story. We don't have to defeat Dracula and everything, but maybe there's some sort of there's not even a really big reveal.
There's no falling action.
There's it's we're trying to get to the top of the roller coaster to go down it, and it feels like we're not even halfway up the roller coaster ride yet. So the pacing, I guess, is just a weird thing for me too, especially since let's be honest, we spend a lot of time fucking around with the speakers and Trevor in episodes 2 and 3. We spend a lot of time fucking with a bunch of these villagers and stuff that I know we'll never see in the rest of the series again. And when it only
Spoiler
has
alert for that one.
when we only see when there is only 4 episodes in a series, I'm you didn't want to get to your story a little faster? We sped through Dracula and Lisa's backstory like we were a rabbit on meth. We were running through that but then we slow way the hell down for episode 2 to like take a stroll through this town that I know is just gonna get fucked. And so I guess like the speed at which they go through some of their story elements was really jarring to me. I don't know, Chris, what did you feel about the pacing overall?
Well, in regards to the episode, like the amount of episodes that we got and the story that they were telling, no, you're absolutely right. It ends at a weird point. The thing is that Netflix didn't want to take a big risk on this show. They were concerned because of the fact it was a video game adaptation, that there hasn't really been anything kind of like this in quite some time, and really anything like this. And it's a property that, to be honest, has not been in the mainstream for years, if not decades at this point. I mean, Castlevania is dead. Konami has run that shit into the ground, like every other franchise that they own. Unless you count like mobile shit, mobile games. So I understood that. I understood like the risk that Netflix thought it was taking. It's like, all right, let's do 4 episodes. And, Adi Shankar, who is the producer of this, who people might not know, he's done like a lot of kind of like, I don't want to describe fan films, but just like different takes on property type films, whether it be Venom or The Punisher or, or anything in between. Like great, really creative stuff. I really admire the guy. And I think that's a legitimate criticism that you have is that, this season doesn't have like a definitive ending. It just kind of stops. And it's like, you could have at least done maybe 1 more episode or 2 more episodes to like finish the story or have some type of conclusion of some kind. So I think that's a legitimate criticism. I'm not going to take that away from you. But I feel like in terms of the episode 2 and 3, that's just, we're just getting to know kind of, who Trevor is and this world that we're set in. That's what worked for me. And again, I like Trevor to begin with, so I just liked his interactions with just the NPCs, as I call them, because that's what they are. Again, I play these games for so many years that a lot of the dialogue that these villagers are saying are actual dialogue from the game. Like when he asks for some dry goat, that's a piece of dialogue from, I think, several of the games. So I was like, oh, okay, that's a fun reference. And just him going, and again, I think it's just building the world, like who the Seekers are, what their relationship is to the church and to the world. Trevor's, interactions with the church. I think you get some more development that way. And again, in between all that, we still get some cool action sequences. Again, like the whole Cyclops, underneath the caverns. Trevor's, fights with the priests and the villagers. Like, I think there's still enough entertaining stuff happening. I think the writing is good enough to where I felt fairly entertained. But I completely agree with you that, and so the pacing for me didn't feel so much off as just that the pace didn't continue on to a point where I thought was a satisfying conclusion. So I think that is legitimate criticism. I agree with you that it ended awkwardly. And had you maybe had another episode to give some sense of finality, at least this season, I would have appreciated that. So I agree with you there.
Well, I wouldn't be so weirded out by it, except for that they set up some really cool stuff. Like, there's just Dracula being really into science is interesting to me. I was like, Dracula is a forward thinker. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's neat to me. I kind of want to see a story about that. Hell, I'd actually watch a Lifetime movie about him falling in love with a doctor over it. Like, that seems fun to me in a kind of trashy way. And yeah, the only thing that I liked about it is that Trevor he's the only one that gets an actual arc of like learning to give a shit again.
Yeah.
And it's the way it ends up is kind of like, I just can't help but feeling like, that's it? Really? That's all we get? I don't know. It leaves me feeling a little cold. Like I really do hope it's getting a second season.
It is. It's confirmed. It's 8 episodes too.
Is it under development right now?
Yeah, I think it's coming out. I want to say late this year, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I have to check to be sure, but yeah, and apparently they renewed it the day it came out because the viewership was so ridiculously high, and they doubled the episode count. So it's like, okay, so we're getting 8 instead of 4.
Yeah, I guess we can go into our final thoughts before we go into a spoiler section. I'm not sure how much we can really spoil.
We talked about most of what happened.
I want to talk about my favorite death in it, though. My favorite kill, which is kind of spoilery. So,
it's probably, I think it's everyone's favorite death.
Sure. Yeah. And before we do that, we'll go into our ratings. I'm hot and cold on it, to be really honest. Like, Well, I mean, to be really honest, I'm mostly cold on it, and I only woke up during some of the more interesting fight sequences that were happening. And the pacing is just really weird and off-putting to me. But I do see that it has potential, like with a higher episode count and maybe a little bit more budget too. There's a germ of a good show in here. So I'll give it 3 weirdly salt exploding whips out of 5. Travis, how about you?
I like this. I thought it was actually pretty good and solid. I agree with the pacing issues a lot, and I think my biggest problem with here is that going into this, I was like, okay, with no knowledge of Castlevania, can I follow this show? And I found that for the most part, it was a no. Like, I was kind of like looking through Wikipedia, I'm like, okay, what's happening here? Okay, I'm on the 3rd game, okay, this is the character, this is what happens, okay. And I felt with how, like, I guess it was just the fact that they spent so much time with other characters, and yeah, I feel like I didn't get any backstory at the same time. So I was kind of like, the slow pace is understandable, but you should have let me know more about it then, if that's going to happen. But overall, the fight scenes were great. I liked the characters overall. I mean, even the Seekers being not the greatest interesting characters in general. I did like Sypha. And I thought the priest was at least an entertaining villain, but I like over-the-top villainous church members, so there's that. Mm-hmm. But do like the pacing issues and the fact that I felt like I just couldn't understand the whole thing right off the bat. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Still interested in seeing the next one, though.
All right, Chris, how you feel, buddy?
Okay, so I'm probably going to say something that, might be hyperbolic to some. And I am carrying to a degree my own fandom, my own appreciation for the Castlevania series as a whole.
That's fine.
I think this is arguably the best video game adaptation we've ever gotten.
Low bar.
You crazy sir. How dare you besmirch the name of Mortal Kombat?
I know. Some people love Mortal Kombat still. It's just like, it's a fun, goofy movie, and there's a lot to laugh at, and,
Although isn't actually Rampage the best one now?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I can't say. I don't know.
I mean,
Nick has seen it.
Kinda? Like,
is it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really dumb in a fun way. Kind of like how it's not quite as good as it could be because The Rock doesn't turn into a giant monster and fight the monsters at the end.
I was going to ask. It's like The Rock's going to turn into a giant monster in the movie. Like, I mean, he has to do that, but he doesn't do that.
They set it up and they don't even do it. Like, it's disappointing.
Well, that's already like 5 stars off that movie for me, honestly.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Are any of the creatures human, or are they just giant animals?
Just giant monsters. In fact, it has nothing to do with the game. Like the wolf has bat wings and has spikes on it.
Oh, I remember
like
that from the
porcupine
trailers.
Spikes.
Yeah.
Well, it also has porcupine spikes, which is weird.
It got really fucked up then, right? Like something. What did it get? Like hit by porcupines at the same time or something? Porcupine quills when it got hit with
it's
the
some
gas?
sort of like genetic thing where it's combining genetics from a bunch of different creatures together.
Does George turn into anything different? Sorry, this is not a Rampage
all he
review,
gets is a healing factor. Apparently, he's like the Wolverine out of all the monsters.
Okay, interesting. I'm never going to see it, but thanks for telling me. But no,
mini review.
It's like this show. I mean, it surprised me. Like, because the thing is, this is Konami who was behind this, giving their property. It's like you could have gave it to anyone. They didn't give a shit. They're just here to make money. They're going to bastardize their franchises from here until whenever, till the end of time. I think at this point. That's the kind of company they are. But the fact they gave it to Adi Shankar, who has a passion for this kind of stuff, that tells, really kind of unique stories or just repurposed properties and makes them, fun and super, graphic and gory. Like, he has fun with it. And it's like an alternate take that I like. But the fact that so much effort went into this, that you actually got, a talented voice cast, some fun writing, some really cool action sequences, respectful of the history of the game, and having an eloquent critique on organized religion, I kind of like that. It was like, wow, this had surprising amount of depth, which I wasn't expecting even from any type of Castlevania adaptation. So I really liked it for that. Now, granted, you guys brought up some good points. The pacing, I think for the most part works, but yes, the ending, wow, yeah, it ends awkwardly, and I don't think there's really an excuse for it. I think you could have found a way to maybe have a better sense of conclusion. So, cause yeah, it just stops. And it's so weird that they chose to do that. But maybe cause A.D. Shankar's like, we're going to get a second season no matter what, cause this is, I know this is good. I know we're going to get that. So then we can have a more complete story. So I'm hoping for that. I hope season 8 kind of goes into, even does flashback episodes where we get to see, Alucard's childhood and sees his father and mother and their relationship. Like, I hope they do that. I think they need to do that, especially with Alucard, because he is like a mysterious character that gets more exploration in the games, but obviously not in the show because we don't know anything about him. The exception that he's Dracula's son. That's it. So, but, despite that, I still think it's really good. And like watching it for a second time, it's like, there's so much I really love about this. So for me, I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 whiplashed eyes.
Owie. I totally forgot about that scene, but that
so
was fun
good.
too. Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I saw a priest pop his eye out.
Right?
But so that was our review, guys. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. We'll go into the spoiler section in a bit, but I want to make sure that Chris has a chance to pimp out all of his stuff that he's working on right now. He's a very busy guy. So, Chris, would you like to tell the people what you got going on?
Sure. Well, you can find me on classintheglass.net, a video game streaming and review website where you can check out my video game reviews and Let's Plays and past streams, which, of course, you can watch on my Twitch channel, which is under Mr. Revan N7. That's MRREVAN7. So you can check out all that great content. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, except for today. And on Sundays at noon Central Standard Time.
That's great. I also love that name, by the way, Revan N7.
Thank you.
Really makes you look like a BioWare bitch, but I love it.
Like the
I
glory
absolutely
days.
dig it.
Back when they weren't dead inside. Yes.
Hey, we don't talk about Mass Effect Andromeda. We're going to give them the mulligan on that one.
We actually talk about it a lot.
We'll see what Anthem brings us.
We'll see. We'll see.
There's no winning for Anthem, right? Because if Anthem is good, everyone will be mad that, like, oh, you took all the good shit away from Mass Effect and threw it into Anthem.
Yeah, probably.
Like, there's no way they win with that either way. But yes, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to go check out some of our previous content on Netflix and Kill, including previous reviews where we had Chris on, where he talked about stuff like The Punisher, and The Void and some other fun movies we talked about with him. Why you can go and check out our back catalog on iTunes at the UGO Podcast, and check out some of our regular show of the UGO Podcast as well. And we check out our Patreon page for our Netflix commentaries and all that good stuff. Other than that, we're going to take a small musical break, and we'll be back with the spoiler section right after this.
It was a dark and spooky Halloween night when I, Dracula, thought that I would invite all of my freaky friends who were there in a flash to a big dance party, a monster bash. Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Mummy were there, while Medusa fed some mice to the snakes in her hair. It was a groovy good time for a vampire bat to fly out of his coffin and... Wait, what was that?
Caesar! Never be summoned, Belmont is here to destroy evil monsters and all you hold dear. I will end your cruel necromancing.
Actually, we were just dancing.
Hell demon beast from whence it came. You're in Castlevania, this season again. Now run away, free this land of its chains. If God is my witness, I shall see you all slain.
And welcome to the spoiler section for Netflix and Kill Castlevania Edition. Oh my goodness, what are we going to start with here? There's so many surprising things, including that, oh my god, Alucard is Dracula's son.
Who would have known?
Dun, dun, dun. Like, that's the big reveal of the final episode. And it's kind of like, oh, that's it? Ooh.
Shocking.
And it was like, that was one of the other things about the ending that's very, like, anticlimactic, is that we basically learn nothing that we don't already know from episode 1 about almost anybody.
Except Trevor.
Except Trevor. Trevor's the only one we get real, like, character growth or development with. And otherwise, everybody else is, from their personality, from the jump, we kind of know everything we're going to know about them. At least for this season. And the only thing I really wanted to touch upon was the
fate of the bishop.
The death of the bishop, which is by far my favorite kill out of the series, in which the demons come for him and they shit talk him a little bit beforehand, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, they straight up say like, "Yeah, your god thinks you're a fuck up."
There's that head demon. Like, does that guy have a name, or is he related to the video game series at all, Chris? Like that.
Well, the character models are. I mean, they're in the original games are sprites and they look weird to begin with, and so I could kind of see what they got from creating the demons, making like these dog bats or whatever you want to describe them as. But I don't believe he has a name. I mean, all the demons kind of shit talk you every once in a while. You do encounter like various bosses and enemies. So, but I loved his whole dialogue with the bishop. Because he's like, he calls him out as a hypocrite, and he's like, and the bishop's like, yeah, I guess I kind of am.
Yeah, I call him Mr. Blue Teeth because he's got the glowy blue teeth on it. He looked kind of like one of those creatures from Attack the Block.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Actually, yeah, about the hair. Yeah, I can see that.
with the hair and the glowy teeth. And he's talking the bishop, and it's like, you cannot enter here. This is a place of God, and I just like that Blue Teeth is like, God ain't here. I mean, we are, but like God ain't here at all. I mean, it's like, how could he like? And it's like, no, God exists, and he's watching everything. Don't get me wrong about that. It made it sound like he was hanging with God at one point.
Yeah, it's like God, you hang out. Yeah, fuck that guy up. I hate him.
And like, he's around and he helps people out that he likes, but he don't like you. he ain't with you at all, buddy. So sorry about that. God does not love you. And he's like, oh no, God doesn't love me. And I love that Mr. Blue Teeth is like, oh, but we love you, buddy. Without you, we wouldn't even be here. Thanks, but you know what? Bring it in. Bring it in for a demon hug. Demon hug, buddy. And
then he bites his head off.
Yeah, well, that's how a demon hug works.
Doesn't he say that I want to kiss you? What was the line?
He does say something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, or something about showing affection.
Yeah.
I think it was something like, hey, you know what, buddy? Let me give you the whole demon affection here. You get the special treatment of evisceration.
Yep.
Because of just how special you are. So that was cool. Actually, it was interesting to see that these demons had sentience. I just thought they were creatures that Dracula could summon or whatnot, but apparently he like opened up like a portal
to hell.
Yeah, to direct hell, because these are straight up demons, so which is pretty cool. And yeah, so by the end of this, Alucard and Trevor have the big fight, and which I like that it the way that it goes, because it's Alucard has like this class and kind of like coolness about him, but then he gets fucked up by Trevor every once in a while anyway, of like he gets kicked in the balls and he's like, really? Come on, don't you want to have a little more class than that? And then he gets headbutted. It's like, god damn it. And I like that Sif was doing nothing during this fight. Like she comes up at the end to try and break it up, and like, where the hell were you like the previous 5 minutes when Trevor was getting the shit kicked out of him?
Well, that time she thought that Alucard was their savior.
A floating guy. Which also, it turns out that whole prophecy, the Seekers were talking about, was actually a prophecy from the future. What?
No,
like, is that
I didn't think of. Was that what it was? I thought
that's
it was
actually what
where
they did say.
They said that, and I was like, what? What does that even mean? And then the series ends, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, it's one line that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but they do say it. Like, they say, like,
I have to go back and watch that. I don't remember.
Alucard is like, oh, you Seekers are meant to speak the words of history, but this was actually a prophecy from the future. And I was like, what?
Aren't most prophecies of the future? I mean,
but apparently this is a story from the future. Like, that whole 1,000 years sleep or something will happen later. Is that what I was trying to interpret from it? I don't know. Because this myth is built around this guy. Only he's only been sleeping for that year.
Yeah,
because Dracula fucked him up.
Yes,
and
that's correct.
So it's like the timeline is weird. Also, so is Alucard Dracula and Lisa's son?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So they were together they were together for even longer than I thought. Then
I think it's like a few years, because Lisa's not a vampire. Dracula never.
Right. But then, so does their kid grow up instantaneously?
No, I think, well, one, they probably just want her to age gracefully.
Because
and to age
she
well.
looks like that
She looks
they
great.
burned her the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. No,
Like-
she looks sexy as hell for a cartoon character. No, I mean,
Like-
Alucard, I believe, like he is half human, half vampire, so he's aging faster than Dracula would.
Right.
But also faster than a human would.
Yeah, I think he's not even technically a vampire. I believe they call him something. I think he's a
Dhampir.
A Dhampir. That's it. That's right. So I would assume he's in his 20s, or maybe he's 19 at the oldest. but no, you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, they didn't age Lisa up because it's like we wanted to keep her pretty. It's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, they could. I mean, I know it's stereotypical, but you could have done the whole 20 years later thing.
True.
Because it felt weird to me of like when we see Alucard and it's like, how the fuck is your kid so old so fast?
Yeah.
Like it was just one of those things that I was kind of like, okay, well, animation budget or whatever. Like they didn't want to switch up the character model. Probably.
He's 20 years old, so 20 years have passed because the beginning of the show takes place in 1455. And it ends in then 1475 is when we pick up. So
Also, why the fuck even travel like a human if you don't have to? Like, I get living like a human and doing some other stuff like a human, but why walk everywhere? That's some bullshit. Walking sucks. Like, if you can teleport via bat, do that shit.
If you can fly, you're going to be flying.
he wants to connect more of humanity. That's what his wife said he should do to be more in touch, and that's what he
Okay.
did. And
Well, then he should come to this day and age because humans don't fucking walk no more.
And also, like, as with a woman with a strong personality, shouldn't him or Alucard should have been babysitting her at all times so the 1800s didn't just fuck her up? Like, they know
Sure.
what time period they're living in, right?
sure, and we don't know where his son was either. So I mean, that's good. That's a good. It's like why didn't his son try to save his mother? So good point.
With 20 years old, he's probably at some monster MCU or something, or MU or like
So, yeah. Monster
just-
Universities with Sully and Mike and all that. The
doing
classic.
keg stands with
Pixar
Sully.
people. Yeah.
I assume. But yeah, is there anything else we want to cover in the spoiler section? Everything else is very straightforward, so I don't think I'm.
I mean, the biggest spoilers are in the first 5 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah.
It's just kind of it's
they're-
like,
the spoilers are the setup, like the setup of what's happening, and really like that's like the biggest surprises that ever really happen. So yeah, as far as like, have we met all of our characters that we're gonna meet from like the games this is based off of then, or do we have any more colorful characters to look forward to, Chris?
maybe if some of the bosses they want to give personalities, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. Some of Dracula's kind of lieutenants. I think that'd be fun if you want to structure maybe certain episodes around them, or at least they're kind of the initial threat before they get to Dracula. You want to build the big guy up, So I'd be surprised at that. But I think what they're going to do, and I think it's smart, that they're going to spend a lot more time focusing on the trio, which is Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha together on this journey. I think they're going to expand the relationship between Trevor and Sypha because that's part of the games and part of the history of Castlevania. Same with Alucard and his relationship with the Belmont family, how that changes over time, and depending on what game it is. I'm trying to think.
Didn't you guys used to be cool? What the fuck happened to you guys?
But yeah, I think so. I think if I would guess is that that they're just going to introduce Dracula's lieutenants and kind of build them up as kind of like these new types of enemies and give them personalities. I think it'd be best, and I think we're going to get backstory between Dracula and Lisa, which I think is necessary at this point. They're going to try to still make you empathize with Dracula.
Get some flashbacks.
I think that would be smart to do, and even just to see Dracula as is, because really only interact with Dracula once. We only see him in the first episode. Past that, he's just kind of that's it. He's just mentioned the entire time. So I think we might even get like some standalone Dracula episodes. Wouldn't be surprised. Which is cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like that. I mean, they do make me feel sympathy for him right off of the bat, which is pretty cool considering how fast we had to get there. But yeah, I wouldn't even mind a couple more episodes of just like how this whole relationship worked or came about. I did like Lisa in the very beginning too, of just her obliviousness of like, I don't care that I'm in a mad science version of Howl's Moving Castle. I'm into this.
Yeah.
And I really hope we get to see more of that castle, because that castle is like badass.
Well, I mean, that is Castlevania.
Yeah, and I was like, and that's why I was surprised we didn't see more of it in this season. I was like, that thing was awesome, where it came down like a fucking asteroid and basically like started to wipe out that town. I was like, fuck yeah, that was cool.
I really hope, I'm not going to spoil anything on this, because I know what the castle can do, and I really hope they do that in the next few, in the second season, because it does some weird, wacky shit that is very much like a Studio Ghibli movie. How it plays
there's so
with,
much
I'll
like
just say this: it plays with reality, and it does in a really fun way.
Cool. Well, it looks so steampunky and and gadgetry to me that I was surprised. Like, does it transform into a giant robot at some point? Because this thing looks awesome.
Spoilers, Nick. Spoilers.
I love it. Like, we finally found a way to work it into the Transformers universe.
Oh, no.
I really did find some of these things actually, at least in concept, interesting. So I actually am looking forward to season 2, even though season 1 left me a little bit cold. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you, Chris, for coming on and joining us once again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
It's been too long since we had you on. We won't let that happen again. This next time around, we'll have you on again sometime soon for something.
Nah, fuck, I'm getting in line. The rest of them.
Well, at least we'll see him when we go down to Austin, and by the end of July, we'll see you then.
Sure. Definitely, absolutely.
Maybe we'll record a special episode or something, or another commentary or whatever.
Sounds good.
We still haven't recorded a commentary for Street Fighter yet.
That's true. We gotta do that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
We can do Street Fighter.
Which one, Chun-Li or the Jean-Claude Van Damme one?
Ooh, well, I mean, for commentary purposes, it's probably going to be the JCVD one. Okay. I would say that. Like, we don't even have to pay any attention to that one to even just talk over it.
Yeah.
I find the Chun-Li version like so infinitely fascinatingly bad that I actually get sucked into watching
it.
Yeah. Like it's actually, I would say that one's a trap. Like, it seems like a good idea, but it's just like just too much of a train wreck to keep your eyes off of.
Fair enough.
But yes, thank you guys so much for listening, and we are Unapologetic Geek Out, and oh shit, it's Dracula backwards. I just figured it out.
There you go.
Oh, okay, I got it now. Oh, clever. Very clever. Also, we're out.
Later that night, we went back to my castle where we could dance in peace and also never get hassled. We had fun playing Twister on my queen-size bed. The party was smaller cause Wolfman was dead. At midnight I heard the Grim Reaper say, I brought Guitar Hero, so who wants to play? It was Swampman on vocals, Nosferatu on bass. Boy, you should have seen the silly funny look on his... Oh god, no!
Tis time! Never